Hi guys, Karen here, with Whiskey Sour of course, wishing you guys a very happy holiday season. I wrote a blog today called, Did Someone Rip Your Head Off? I read a quote from H. Jackson Brown Jr. where he said, "Remember that everyone you meet is afraid of something, loves something, and has lost something." Today I took the brunt of someone's frustration with someone else in their life. The frustration with someone else. It wasn't even with me. It's a classic case of just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I've talked about this before. Just sometimes you end up in a place where you're like, how did I get here? I should just, suck back another coffee at home and not showed up at this particular time and place, but, here I am. I actually don't drink coffee, but it's just my example. Luckily, I understand this is not me. This person was really frustrated with somebody else. So I don't internalize it or feel bad. So this happens in relationships where we end up with someone's punching bag. And if this Jackson Brown Jr. quote is true, that everybody is afraid of somebody or something and loves something and has lost something, then it would stand to reason we all have the capability of running into somebody at the exact moment that they are experiencing something scary, or they've lost something or whatever. And it reminds me of a time that I was at the airport and someone freaked out really quickly, just freaked out and said, "My contact lens! Everybody stop!" Real bossy. And there must have been a lot of sympathetic people at that airport because who have lost their contact lenses before, because they obeyed this guy immediately, just like, "Yes, sir." And everybody froze as though they were turned to stone by a wicked witch, and they all seemed to have this respect to sympathize because maybe they'd been through it. So most people instinctively just crouched down, and instead of walking, like they just knew what to do, and they would start to scour the floor with their eyes. And someone finally pointed, "There it is," and then the proud owner picked it up, and it was all good. And then he picked it up, he walked over to the guy, and he shook his hand and gave a very grateful handshake with a very big smile and a very big thank you. But then that thank you was followed up by an apology to everyone in the vicinity of the airport for snapping their heads off at the very moment that that contact lens went down on the floor. And this is a case of cutting each other some slack. I'm a big preacher on this. As much as I preach. I'm a pathetic little preacher over here in my bedroom, but I really think we need to cut each other some slack. And so this is kind of what I was feeling with this person who was frustrated today. And I think these people, the reason that they had the ability to cut each other some slack is because they could relate. Because maybe they wore contact lenses, they could relate to losing that feeling, or that feeling of, oh my god, like the contact lens was worth like as much as a brick of gold or something. People who have fully experienced fear and loss seem to be the best at giving hugs. All of a sudden it gets really loving and laughing and everything's, they have the ability to diagnose this problem almost without asking. And I think they put themselves into the shoes of the truly sad people, and they know how to put themselves there easily because they've either been there or they're going through the same thing at the same time. So it's just, they can have some sort of sympathy towards the situation. It's one thing to comfort the sadness, but I really believe it's a different skill altogether to comfort anger. Anybody out there who's lived with an angry person or whatever, comforting anger is a whole different skill. And I'm not sure if comforting anger is the best angle, but if you live with somebody, you probably know exactly what I mean. It's so easy to think it's directed to us, especially if they're like this close to our face. Now, I have always said that we don't need to be anyone's punching bag, and I will continue to say that because there's too many people who are abused. But in the same token, if it really truly isn't towards us, like this contact lens situation or whatever, and we're just witnessing the frustration, the best thing we can do is just crouch down and help them look for the lens. What's the big deal? How much time is that out of your day to just help? Just get in there and just help a little bit. And the people at the airport were interested in finding a solution first. This is what I was so impressed with. They felt sympathetic, they sensed a little bit of compassion or whatever, and they just looked for a solution. They didn't like yell back at the guy and go, "Don't tell me what to do," and then start a big fight, you know. So, but then they all smiled and giggled and, you know, at this hot-headed man, because I think they must have done the same thing. At some point in their life, they probably did the same thing, and that's what it really means, to cut each other a little bit of slack. And the brunt of frustration that I was feeling from this person, it wasn't anything I couldn't handle. I didn't feel like it was personal. And I tried to focus on coming to a really quick, sympathetic solution. And then it calmed down fairly quickly after that. So I received an apology. We kind of laughed about it. And I cut the person the slack because I recognized that I had done the same thing to somebody else at a different point in time who didn't deserve it. To me, it's another form of paying it forward. And I think had it escalated to the point where it passed that abusive language barrier that I don't tolerate, that would be a different story. But this was a fairly easy fix when rational dialogue was applied. I just received it at the exact same time of day that they were feeling especially hot-headed. It was just poor timing. It was just bad timing. No big deal. You know, people are very passionate. There's just things in people's lives that they're really passionate about. And depending if, like H. Jackson Brown Jr. said, if somebody's, you know, afraid of something, loves something, and has lost something, there's a good chance you might have come at the exact same time that they were going through that. And you know what? December can be a really different type of stress for people. Something I'm trying to be conscious of, even though I told you guys I never know what time of year it is. But now I'm like, okay, it is December. Okay, people are going to be acting a little different. Business is going to operate a little differently. Like in LA, a lot of things shut down, even though, you know, the companies I'm working with, we got lots to do to prepare for the NAMM show coming up and all those sorts of things. But you know, you just have to be mindful of some of the exterior things like that, like the time of year. And the holiday season's supposed to be really cheerful, but truthfully, it is a time when people really beat themselves up for simply not having money for gifts. If you are starting off with new kids in the family, my humble suggestion is to set a standard with your babies, with your little people, of 1 or 2 gifts, if you must, in the event that in future years, if you don't have that money, I think that, you know, you've set a little bit of a better standard so that you have some swinging room in later years, because boy, I think too many people have just gone way overboard in the past. So the expectation is to one-up the last year, or at least match it. It's just like, you know, how do you one-up the Xbox this year, or whatever it is that you're giving? But you know what? Kids are really resilient. This is something I've learned about children, is they're really resilient, and more resilient than we think that they are. If we explain that money is tight, if we think that the situation, and explain to them that the situation has nothing to do with our love for them, then most kids, if we give them the credit, are pretty understanding, for the most part. And if they snap at you for the time, whatever, let them have their snap time and then they'll get over it. You know, they are really resilient. Taking them to see less fortunate people, starting young, can also put it in perspective. And there are things in this life that truly deserve our attention and our frustration over these small things. So I think it's good to be mindful of the exterior things that are going on. You know, that back to that peripheral again I talked about before. Just there's some things maybe going on in these people's lives that they don't have complete control over. So be a little mindful, cut some slack there. It's good to know though that we aren't alone. I've said this so many times, especially because my whole last record, my whole last decade or so, I've been dealing with depression, isolation, fear, anxiety, sadness, loneliness, all those things. And you know what? The biggest comfort I have known, and it's not a misery loves company thing, but it kind of is just to know that we're not alone. That is such a great thing. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive to get out of your situation, but it's really good to know that there's a good chance that someone you meet today, right now, today, somewhere, is going to be feeling these things that this person who, you know, I took their brunt of their frustration. Best thing I think that we can do is just show a little bit of tolerance. Just, you know, take a deep breath, cut some slack, find a solution. And I've learned too, it was Frank Greiner that taught me, one of his best skills is don't react right away to something. If you get, say, a really poorly worded email or whatever it is, or a, you know, nasty phone message, whatever the situation, don't react right away. Give it some thought. And really reread and re-listen and see if you're really getting what the person's saying to you first. I think that's probably helpful too. So I'm trying to apply these few things. And it did extinguish this situation pretty quickly today. So yay! It's like the buckwheat on Little Rascals. I'm so impressed though with how many people in my life have offered to be a good listener. I get emails like this all the time, and you know, it really makes me smile when somebody says, you know, Karen, if you ever need to bend someone's ear, if you ever need someone to listen, if you ever need somebody to talk to, that's fantastic. And I think that is more valuable to most people, just having somebody in their life that they can listen to. And coming to a solution is much easier than trying to get rid of fear and the feeling of loss, like what H. Jackson Brown Jr. was saying here. So I signed off today. Glad I don't wear contact lenses. They sound like they cost $100,000 each. Like, really? You just freaked out over this little piece of it? But I guess for a lot of people it's more the pain in the butt of having to get them fitted and all that stuff. Oh. I also had to add, I mean, it's obvious for you guys who know how much I love this quote. It's absolutely one of my favorite quotes, and I had to, as soon as I saw the other quote, I had to tack this one on the end to bookend it, is be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Truer words have never been spoken. We're all fighting a hard battle. Every single one of us. Every single one of us is afraid, or has been afraid. Every single one of us loves something. Every single one of us hates something. And every one of us has lost something at some point. And, you know, we could sit there and compare and say, well, you know, you lost a contact lens, but I lost my house. But still, the feeling of loss is horrible. So I think we just need to show some sympathy, empathy, whatever you want to call it, and really just cut each other some slack, especially this time of year, when the frustrations that you're seeing in the malls and things like that, a lot of it has to do with just how overworked, overwhelmed, underpaid, and the expectations of children. All these things are really grinding on the nerves of people right now, and it's making people feel not as valuable. It's making people feel like they're a failure. And so I think, you know, it's just sometimes just maybe letting somebody in line in front of us at the mall, or you know, waving somebody through to let them have a parking space. Little things like that, I think, just set the mood a little bit better. And if nothing else, even if they're not grateful, keep your character in check. And that's what I'm all about, is, you know, I don't have to worry about whether they like me at the end of it. I just have to make sure that I didn't stoop down to somebody else's level, and that I'm still continuing to grow my character. And that's important to me. So I will sign off today, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you have a fantastic holiday season and that everything is going super well so far, okay? Till next time, from Whiskey Sour and me, rock on.